It's a very tight formation, and you can imagine that it's very difficult to squeeze any gas out of that, because what the people who prospect for this are looking for large volumes of gas in place and the ability to produce that from these wells. The way they have to do it in the shales, and the new technological development, is to stimulate those wells through a process that I'm sure you've all heard mentioned, hydrofracking, right? Which is to pump down large volumes of water at high pressure and kind of crack the formation, in part taking advantage of natural fractures or joints that are already there. When they do this, they pump fluids down, and those fluids are carrying little grains of sand, lots of sand, tons of sand, that get pumped down, and when the fluid goes into the rock and breaks it open, as you're going to see here, that these sand grains get forced into the fractures that form, the openings, and then hold them open when the pressure is reduced back to what it was originally. And that allows the gas to migrate out of the rock into the fractures and go into the production well. And in order to take advantage of the maximum thickness of rock that they can do that, they need to drill horizontally. Vertical wells just aren't economic because the Marcellus Shale is relatively thin, no more than 150 feet in most of the area and less than that in other parts of the area. So if you drilled only a vertical well, you would have a very small interval that you could tap in. But Range Resources, which was the pioneering company in Pennsylvania, started with wells like that in the Southwest, and they were encouraged enough that some of those are producing, but they began the horizontal drilling. And in order to do that, they go out up to 7,000 feet or more within the formation. So we're going to show the video, and we'll just talk you through the process. And it's important because you'll see that industry practice, best practice, is to take care of the of casing the well as they go through and cementing the well. And those are going to be aspects that we talk about later on. I'm sure you have questions about this, and so that's something we do. So this is Wyoming, not Pennsylvania, obviously, or Colorado. This is from Citrus Energy, but it's a nice little video. And we'll start out. This is what the land surface looks like, and then we'll see we begin with a pad, and Tom will walk you through some of this through pictures here in Pennsylvania. And the drilling rig is there, and that rig might drill as many in Pennsylvania as 4 different holes, okay? And then in large parts of Pennsylvania, the Marcellus Shale is at least 5,000 feet deep or deeper. So they're going to go through the upper part of the rock, first drilling a large diameter hole, and this continues for some time until they get to the bottom of the freshwater zone, the aquifers that people might use for fresh water. At that point they stop, and this would be the last fresh water that they encounter. Below that it's all salty. They withdraw the drill string, and then they set a casing. This is called a surface casing. There may be several of these as they net down in the well. They start out with a conductor pipe, which protects the hole from soil falling in and so on. And then it's really important, this is the key process. That casing is fitting in the hole, but the hole is larger diameter than the casing. So they pump cement down the hole, and that cement is forced down. There's a wiper plug that goes down, pushes that cement out and up around the casing, in the annulus of the hole, and then that hardens. And it only takes about 2 hours for it to harden, but they have to wait 8 hours before they can resume drilling. But they send down now a smaller bit. They go through that cement plug, and they begin drilling further into the stratum. This might be 5,000 or 6,000 feet, depending on where you are. It could be deeper or shallower. And this is called the kickoff point, because from here, they're going to take this well into the horizontal. And they have skilled drillers who can operate little here that will begin to make that hole bend. The pipe is flexible enough that it can make a 90-degree bend, but it happens over about 1,000 feet. And now this is the Marcellus Shale, let's say, and they're drilling laterally or horizontal, and they're going to go out some distance depending on what the geologists told them they needed to do to gather the gas. It could be 3,000, it could be 5,000, it could be 7,000 feet. And when they finish this, they're going to set casing in all the rest of the hole. So basically, the entire hole will be cased with at least one stainless steel casing string. They're withdrawing that drill, and they're going to set in here. This is going to be called a production casing. By the time you get down here, this casing diameter is only about 5 7/8 or 5 3/4 inches in diameter. Again, cement is pumped down. What they want to do is to prevent any gas that's produced from any of the horizons they go through from migrating up the side of the hole and possibly going into aquifers. And it's this process that is really critical, the proper cementing. And there are companies that are subcontracted to do this work. Okay, the rig is set up, but now they tear it down off of that well and they set up what's called the Christmas tree, which is a wellhead, which has the blowout preventer and so on. They can now cap that well and contain any pressure or any gas or water that's going to migrate. And now they're getting ready to perforate this hole. And what they do is they have small charges set in here. They pack off a certain interval of the horizontal hole, and they blast little holes in the casing and through the cement and into the rock. And that starts the fracturing process, right? But it's not over yet. Then they pump down the water, the sand, and certain additives that they need to be able to carry the sand, reduce friction, and so on. And they hydraulically frack that hole at very high pressure. Much of the water stays there. If they use, in total, maybe 5 million gallons of water in fracking a well, about 20% of that, maybe 1 million gallons, will flow back, and they store that in tanks or in holding ponds. The rest stays here. The proppants are forced in there, and now gas can begin to migrate into this well. But they continue the process, usually in 500-foot segments or so. Yeah.
Just a quick question. What's the sense of the cement casing if you then go blow holes in it?
Because it can't migrate along that casing. It's only conducted into the production casing itself. Okay. So the cement is to prevent any fluids or gas from migrating in the hole around that casing. So in this case, it was a stage 3 frac. And thanks for the question. That's a good one. So they did 3 different stages with plugs. Now they'll take those out, and now gas can begin to flow up the well. And with that gas comes a little bit of water, but in most cases it's largely gas. And this is what the pad looks like at the end. They only have 1 wellhead. Many of these will have 4 or more. And now we're seeing the pipeline. We won't